Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at the Laing P-04S stabilizer. This is one that I've had loads of requests for. This is a pretty good stabilizer in some ways, but does definitely have some things I'd like to see improved. First of all, the quick release plate is way oversized. I mean, that is just ridiculous, and doesn't have any sort of rubber on there. So what you're going to want to do is add some rubber on there, and then it's usable, and just like a sheet of rubber or silicone or something. Or a sheet of rubber and silicone, and then add your own quick release plate like I do to everything anyways. So not a big issue, just really oversized. Thing here to lock that, and then you're going to want to sort of adjust it so it's half locked, so you can still push this forward and back without this thing moving on its own. And then once you've balanced it, then lock it fully. Over here we have a fine adjustment for the left-right, and here is the lock for the left-right. So here it's a fine adjustment, which means that you need to move this quite a lot for small movements there, which makes it easy to adjust the balance. And over here, it's not a fine adjustment, so my small movements of the hand are causing this to move a lot. So a little more difficult to balance, still totally doable to balance this with that. And over here we have the safety release for this when you want to actually remove the plate. You can disassemble this with an Allen key from there and there to pack it down more tight. Ideally, you'd be able to just unscrew this with your hand without needing tools. Now this thing is a mix of carbon fiber and metal, but it's still a little bit on the heavy side, noticeably heavier than something like the GlideCam HD 1000. The entire gimbal assembly and this control handle area are movable up and down on the pole there, which makes it easier to balance this, especially when you want to sometimes balance both really big cameras and really small cameras. So for example, right now I could balance a GoPro like that, and then balance a 5D like that, and it would be much quicker than changing weights over. Now, since the Laing 04 was released, people who saw my review of the 03 sent me a lot of questions about whether their Laing was broken. I haven't received emails like that for a while, probably a year. And this one here is absolutely perfect. Really, really accurate gimbal. So I don't think that's a problem anymore. There's no stability issues. So I can change the handle to the other side. Other than the fact that there's so much friction that it turns instantly, it's actually really good. Still allows me to keep it stable. And it's not starting to swing to one way or another. So that's nice to see, but it will require an oil change. I really don't know why Chinese manufacturers are still manufacturing gimbals with thick grease instead of thin oil, but basically there's too much friction, you need to open it up. I haven't done it with this one, I've done it with loads of other gimbals. I just don't have time to start changing oil on this. It takes about 2 hours and I'm really busy. So you'd need to change oil on this, which on most stabilizers is fairly doable. It's not exactly easy, but it's doable. I've got at least one tutorial on how to do that. And if you don't, what's going to happen is when you walk around, your camera is going to do this. Now you can help that by controlling it from here and never letting go. Depending on the shot you're trying to get, you very often need to let go of that for a little bit or for a long time. Really depends on the shot. But basically, if you do let go of this, immediately you're going to start seeing this left-right movement because the oil here is just too thick. It's not separating the movement from your hand. Even though I have both hands on it, it is still shaking left and right because there's too much friction in the gimbal. It's not separating the slight movement of my hand holding the handle from the stabilizer. So definitely one that's going to want an oil change. And the next thing is here that you have a really big, thick area to hold here. Let's call this the main handle and this the control handle. So the control handle, where you control this from, is just really thick, probably the thickest I've seen on any stabilizer. What that means is that this is very easy to move compared to another one. So that means that you're going to get some unwanted motion in that left-right direction, especially when trying to do any sort of tilt, because when you're doing a tilt, you're trying to sort of push it that way without pushing that way. And that's just really difficult with a thick pole like that. Now, of course, this might depend on user preference, but just talking about physics and my experience, you can see that when I try and move that, it really doesn't move very much, and I'm pressing quite hard with my fingers. So as you can see, the mix of the friction in the bearing and the really huge handle mean that even for someone really experienced, it's just really quite difficult to get this thing to tilt without shaking left and right. It's mainly the huge handle. I do have a video about a DIY thing to extend these out, and the further out these are, the more that helps with unwanted left-right movements from your control hand and unwanted left-right movements from the handle due to the thick oil. Really what we just want is some thin oil in there and a thin control handle, and these things far away from each other from the factory. Definitely a compromise there. Of course, it comes at a lower price and can be fixed to be pretty good. The only thing that can be fixed here is this thing being huge. For my uses, this would be a deal killer right there. But if you don't mind that, and if you're willing to extend these out with some DIY stuff, and if you're willing to change the oil, then hey, this ain't bad. So hey, if you really need to save some money and you're willing to put a bit of time into it to improve it, then, you know, this isn't bad. But really, if you're a professional, then no, I would say this wouldn't be my choice.